Happy Tuesday, my people. Today we're going to touch on a touchy subject on this Tuesday. We're going to talk about parenting, specifically co-parenting amongst parents who are no longer together but still have a child together. Now, disclaimer, I am talking from personal experiences, and us as men, we are supposed to fight as hard as we can and all that there to see our children and do all we can. Sometimes we may be pursuing our dreams or pursuing a better life for our entire family. We may end up moving out of town. We may move some miles away. It shouldn't be the father's responsibility only to drive hundreds of miles to see the child. The child's mother should be able to put up some of that as well, whether it's meeting halfway or, going half on a ticket maybe or something like that. A lot of these women, they sit up and expect you to just do everything, and it's your fault that you and your relationship with your child is not what it's supposed to be, even though they didn't do anything to put any effort in. They may be upset that you have someone else, or you have other children with other women. You with that woman, they feel like that should have been their place. Y'all didn't ever get married or whatever, and you end up marrying somebody else. It's a lot of different situations. But the most successful co-parenting I see is people actually work together. They stay in constant contact. It's not just a money grab. Oh, just call your daddy when you need some money for your birthday or school clothes or something like that. It's a year-round thing. Y'all work together on everything. Go to parent-teacher conferences together. Your teacher actually know both of y'all and not just one of y'all. Some of these cases, the teacher and the principal may not even know the mother. She might not even be involved in that. I've seen situations where mothers live within 5 miles away and don't see their kids for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then if the father moves out of town, he the bad guy because he's not seeing the child on the regular. It's just like, and women always get the benefit of the doubt for some reason, even though it's some terrible mothers out there. It's some deadbeat mothers out there who masquerade as victims and acting like it's the dad's fault, even though it may not be that way. So I just need, when you getting to, have a child with somebody, you need to make sure that if y'all not going to be together, y'all can have a successful co-parenting relationship, because that's important. And if she happens to be bitter, if she happens to be angry, mad, or whatever the case may be, it's going to be a difficult situation for you to still maintain a relationship with your child. And ultimately, it's going to look like it's you giving up on your child, even though that's not the case. And a lot of times, it's not the case. It's not the dad's fault. It's not a deadbeat dad situation. It's a bitter mother who doing a little slick junk and turning the kid against the father, or keeping the kid away from the father and not putting any effort. For instance, there have been times I lived in Atlanta, in order for me to see my child, I had to drive to Mississippi every time. Now, granted, it ain't nothing but a 5-6 hour drive, depending on traffic or whatever like that, but it would have been nice for somebody to meet me in Mobile or somebody to meet me in Montgomery instead of me having to drive all the way down. I live in Vegas, I had to fly my son out to Vegas. Nobody drove halfway to Vegas or nothing like that, or helped me buy a plane ticket for my son to come out to Vegas. Same thing living in Texas. Lived in San Antonio for a little while, 8 hours away from where my son was in Mississippi. The only time he was able to come out is when we had to go pick him up from Mississippi, and I had to have my family to come meet me halfway to come pick him up to take him back to Mississippi. No one offered, to come meet halfway or none of that. So it was never any effort. It's like, in order for me to see my son, I essentially had to do everything. I had to make all the phone calls. I had to make all the trips, all that. And to me, that's just ridiculous. That's not true co-parenting. And then you sit up and be bitter and talk junk and, all this other foolishness, but you didn't do anything. Like, if we're both supposed to be co-parenting, why should you meet me halfway? You have a vehicle. You have a couple of vehicles. I mean, you can drive everywhere else you want to go. You go out of town. You go to Florida. You go to Missouri, wherever you want to drive, that's perfectly fine for you to drive then, but you can't come drive halfway for me to see my son. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Atlanta situation, you can't come drive halfway, or even part of the way. No effort at all. It's like I was punished for moving out of town and getting away from a lot of foolishness and nonsense I was involved in, aka street shit. I wanted to better my life. I wanted to, be in a better situation and be around, and not end up in jail or worse. I want to be around for all my children. And it's just a wild situation when it's a one-sided thing. It just doesn't work out well. So if it's supposed to be co-parenting, it need to be actual co-parenting, and not just you sitting back doing nothing and I'm supposed to be doing all the work essentially to make sure I see my son. Not making any excuses or nothing. I did all the effort that I could on that, but that's just ridiculous that, in order for me to see him, I always had to go back to Mississippi. Like, he was never brought outside of Mississippi other than with me to, to be able to see him. And I mean, that's just ridiculous to me. And I know it's a lot of dudes that go through similar situations like that. I've talked to them. I've seen them. I know these situations. And it's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great, quote-unquote, baby mothers, mothers of children that actually go halfway. Okay, you living out there. Okay, we'll go half on the plane ticket. Okay, cool. We'll go half on some gas since you having to drive 400 miles, 500 miles to come see your child. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be, it's not my fault you moved out there, so you just need to go do everything to make sure you see them. And then if I can't make that happen, it's my fault. I'm a deadbeat. Like, that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And in certain situations, you still can find your child a stable situation, even if it's not with me. Like, my child ended up staying with my grandmother and my uncle, and they end up raising him more so than I did when I was in and out. I was there when he was younger, but then I end up moving away and stuff like that. So it was an agreement made between myself and my grandmother and my uncle to take care of my child while I was out pursuing my dreams and doing my thing, and I'm thankful for that. If it wasn't for them, ain't no telling how things would have added up. But my son couldn't go stay with his mother's family because, for one, she was white and a lot of them was racist, and he wasn't welcome like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, even though I wasn't there to provide him the stable household with me all the time for one reason or another, I still provided him that with my family. And he still viewed them, obviously as family. He had a stable place to stay. Because with me moving around a little bit, his mother was moving around a little bit. She wasn't stable at all either. So, but it's like it all falls on me. It's like I'm the bad guy, even though she had plenty of mess ups, along the way. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. But anywho, the moral of the story is, when you having a baby with someone, make sure that person is still going to put the child's best interest at heart if y'all not together, and not going to be bitter and be upset if you end up moving on, even though they may move on too. But it's like, it's not a problem when they move on. It's a problem when you move on. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. They move on. They find somebody else. It's all great. There ain't no problem with that. But you get another wife, you have another child, another son, another daughter, whatever, and you treating them better. You doing this. Okay, if I'm treating them better, then won't you let the child come live with me and get exactly what they getting? If you feel like they get more than the other child, but you didn't want to let them, you don't want to, get that up. You want to make sure he stay there with you. So you can't complain about what the other children are getting if you're not willing to put our child in the same situation to receive the same thing. So obviously, a child can't get the same kind of love and commitment if you hundreds of miles away, or in some cases thousands of miles away. So please, people, wake up. When you having babies with these women, make sure their mind is right. Make sure they're going to always put the child first and not put themselves first. All right? Holla.